Hello there, I'm Phil Simpkin, the author of the Borough Boys series of novels. These are a series of crime fiction stories set and beginning in the murky depths of 1850s Leicester, England. I also write non-fiction, children's stories and poetry. This was me in the mid-1970s, Constable Phil Simpkin of Leicestershire Constabulary. It was during this previous life that I wandered through those streets of old Leicester, imagining what it would have been like to walk those dark, sooty, damp, cobbled streets in those primitive Victorian times. Gas lamps, cobbles, dirt, filth, horses and carriages were the order of the day. Crime in Leicester in 1850 was rife, but it was a different sort of crime and a different world to the 1970s that I policed. All of my books in this current series are dedicated to colleagues of mine, past, present and future, who have or have had the courage to protect the public and city of this county. The plaque featured here sits on the walls of Leicester Cathedral as a lasting memory to those who have served, and in some cases given up their lives in the course of their duty. In 1850 the cathedral was merely the church of St Martin's parish of the borough, and it features quite a lot in the series. My first books in the Borough Boys series, Jack Ketch's Puppets and Death Lurks in Cockmuck Hill, are a mix of both fictional characters such as my main man, Rookie Constable Samson Shepherd, and his experienced and street-hardened colleague John Beddoes, and the real Borough Boys such as Head Constable Robert Charters, Francis Tanky Smith and Black Tommy Haynes. These will be around as history is recorded and will feature throughout the series. I consider these men to be the pathfinders of the modern police service of England. Leicester today is a modern multicultural city, densely and diversely populated. It has all the trappings of modern life, with commerce, shopping centres, entertainment venues and the luxury of modern hospitals and prisons. Very little of the Leicester of 1850s remains. Progress, sadly, has decimated much of what was left in recent years, but there are still some treasures going back to Roman times. The clock tower pictured here as a central focal point didn't exist in 1850, and the site on which it now stands was known as Coal Hill, or to other people Beer Hill, and was the site of the old assembly rooms and coal merchants and the town stocks. One of the hidden treasures of Leicester is Rupert's Gateway, part of the old Leicester Castle, favourite of both families of York and Lancaster over the centuries, but badly damaged during the English Civil War. The castle and St Mary de Castro Church, looking from the Newarks. The point at which I stood is close to a rather nasty murder scene in Jack Ketch's Puppets. In the graveyard at St Mary de Castro still remains a large tree, its branches now supported by huge props. Under this tree, no doubt, my heroes would probably have spent many hours sitting in the shade or keeping out of the rain, watching Leicester's criminal fraternity scurrying to and from the area around the river and castle nearby. On the wall opposite the church is a plaque bearing the arms of both houses of York and Lancaster, symbolic and in memory of the change in monarchy after that fateful day, the 22nd of August 1485, when King Richard III lost his final battle at Bosworth Field. A centre point for my novels is the beautiful and very old Leicester Guildhall. In 1850 this was the town hall for the borough, having originally been built as the Hall of Guilds for the town. Guildhall Lane, on which it currently stands, was known in 1850 as Town Hall Lane. This early sketch of the mid-19th century is by local artist John Flowers, who features heavily in Jack Ketch's Puppets. The building looks somewhat different to how it appears today. The lower front of the premises, adjacent to St Martin's West, was the police station, the first home of the Borough Boys. To the right of the picture, a hanging sign can be seen. This is the King and Crown coach house and inn, which will feature frequently throughout the early novels in the series, frequented by the Borough Boys. The police station originally housed the 50 men who made up the Borough Police Force. The county was policed by a separate force, whose headquarters were only a few hundred yards away, in what is now Market Place, Leicester, but still within the confines of the borough. St Martin's West, a small historic alleyway that runs alongside the building and through, past the cathedral, out onto Peacock Lane. It was in this alleyway that the large entrance door to the police station stood. The thick entrance door was deep and heavy and hard to open. It's through this door that the young urchin rushes in, reporting the first body in Jack Ketch's Puppets. This was not a door that many chose to enter willingly in 1850s Leicester. "Quick! Tom's found a body in the river down at West Bridge. Send me to fetch the crushers. Get your arses down there quick," in a breathless voice. From the entrance door, the first thing somebody entering the building would see was the great fireplace to the right of the room, alongside which the charge sergeant would be stood, with his raised desk on which would be its heavy charge book. Here Sergeant Sheffield would regularly give the Borough Boys his wit and sharp tongue, snug against his fire, pipe aglow. "What have you got for me now, Beddoes?" asked the charge sergeant, avoiding eye contact, and blowing his pipe smoke in the face of the prisoner, whilst at the same time opening the heavy bound charge register and dipping his pen into the adjacent inkwell. In front of him, the smallest of the 3 internal cells, nothing more than a 4-foot square space with a low wooden seat. Cold and inhospitable, even with its closeness to the fire, this was a cell for the Watch Closely Brigade. Once that door shut, a thick bolt and padlock in place, many of the prisoners taken in Jack Ketch's Puppets faced their first hours in custody. The second, larger cell was used for holding larger numbers of prisoners. Solid, with very little light and just a small hatch in the door for inspection. Again, this was a foreboding place. A prisoner sits alone in the cell, uncertain of his future. If guilty, a trip to hard labour at the local jail, transportation to the colonies, or the end of Jack Ketch's rope. It would not bear thinking about. Imagine this was Shepherd's prisoner St Clair. St Clair looked confused and never thought of having to shake hands with a copper, let alone a left-handed one. He held out his hand, but sadly missed the right fist steaming towards him, knocking him onto the floor and breaking his nose. "Glad you've settled in," said Shepherd. "I'll be back shortly to finish this conversation." Not exclusive to males, the cells were often the last holding place of females and children. Once that door slammed shut, your life was going to change, whoever or whatever you were. Looking across from the rear of the police station, circa 1900, a dreary grey building. On the ground floor the mayor's parlour, and above the jury rooms. Today, looking from above the old police station, the building to the left was the head constable's house, as described in Jack Ketch's Puppets. It had the appearance of a quaint doll's house, with a little tan door, a porch and hanging baskets, swathed in colourful climbing plants, which had spread across the mayoral side of the courtyard. It looked surreal amidst the otherwise drab surroundings. To the right lies the Great Hall, where the petty sessions and assizes were held. These were the main courts for the borough. Number 12 Guildhall Lane, or it was in 1850 12 Town Hall Lane. Currently a Twendy wine bar, brasserie, bistro, but then a brothel, also known as an abbey or a cab run by Manky Lil, where she employed girls to entertain the local hoi polloi. Number 10 New Street, In 1850, the offices of Oliver Mitchell, coroner for the borough and south of the county, who features throughout the series, a very Dickensian character. During my time as a constable, it was the coroner's offices for the same area, and many a sad day was spent informing families how their loved ones had been lost. West Bridge, as depicted by John Flowers. The scene of the first body discovered in Jack Ketch's puppets, and as would have been seen by the Borough Boys. The walkways along the river still in situ at this time, and then the view down West Bridge Street to the river. This small area on the map was known as the Rookeries and was amongst the worst social housing in the borough in 1850s. Many of the tales in the first novels take place here, in dark, dank, overcrowded and fetid alleyways and hovels. Much of this is now concealed under St Margaret's bus station and its nearby factories and shops. Mansfield House Police Station, today. This sits above what would have been the site of Cockmuck Hill, the setting for Book 2, Death Lurks in Cockmuck Hill. Ironic that all these days later a police station should sit on the site of such a poor and impoverished part of the town. Samson Shepherd, my main character. In 1850, Sam was just a young man, fresh into Leicester, with ideas of avenging the death of his Uncle George, also an earlier borough boy. Artistic, a pugilist with a keen eye and a determination that will make him a good copper. Top Hat Terrace on London Road in Leicester is the location of some of Tanky Smith's disguises. The house was built by his son, also called Francis, in memory of his dad, who was allegedly the role model for Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. Smith remained a constable, a sergeant and then an inspector in the force until a fallout with Charters, when he left and became one of the country's most respected private detectives. That was a short insight into the Borough Boys series by Phil Simpkin and into some of my other publications. If you'd like to know more about the series and my other work, please view my website at www.1455bookcompany.com or by viewing my author pages at Goodreads or Amazon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you've enjoyed my work and I hope you'll continue to do so with the works that are still to come. Thank you.